Ring the bell. Bloomberg's comprehensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close starts right now.
About 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day, Katie Greifeld and Scarlet Fu, we're counting it down to the closing bell. Here to help us take Beyond the Bell. It's the global simulcast. We're joined now by Massar and Matt Miller. And of course, we're bringing together all of our audiences, television, radio, YouTube, and originals as we go through the crucial moments of the trading day. And Carol, looks like we're going to end on a pretty flat note.
I kind of feel like this is such a boring day. Bill Maloney was just in doing a report, and we're like, what's going on? He's like, it's just so quiet. I will say, though, the big banks, the KBW, really has had a banner week, up about 6.6% in the trade overall. So maybe what we need to do is kind of look at the week perspective a little bit.
Well, Ann,
today
remember
is quiet.
What you told me at the top of the program?
What did I say?
The Dow Jones Industrial Average, if it continues to be in the green, and right now it's only up 0.02%, will have finished up 10 days in a row.
I swiped that from you, Scarlett, actually. I heard you at
Scarlett's
the top.
Been talking about it all
we're just
day.
looking for anything to get us excited about a day in which the indexes have barely budged.
Oh, now it's down.
Spoke too soon. Okay.
I shouldn't have said anything.
30
about
seconds. Oh, it's positive.
But you know what's interesting, though? We thought that the volume was really going to pick up here and the volatility would increase because of the expiration of options in individual stocks and indexes, and that's not really playing out, at least on the volume front or on the volatility front.
To be fair, I mean, you do have volume a little bit higher than normal, but certainly not the type of volatility that you'd expect to see, maybe that we've gotten used to on other expiry days. But about 15 seconds away from the close right now, let's take a look at the indexes. Looks like the S&P 500 is going to do it. It's going to end in the green just barely. I'll give the Dow just a couple of seconds here. You take a look at the NASDAQ composite. Tough week, down 0.2%. Of course, the NASDAQ 100 also down on the week. And you look at the Dow Jones, oh my goodness. We'll see.
One.
If it settles in the green, it'll be 10 straight days of gains. Looks like, I don't know, we're 12 seconds past 4 o'clock right now. Looks like it was able to do it.
Did you really say, oh my goodness?
Oh my goodness.
Really charming. I'm looking at the S&P 500, the breakdown for the week. Individual members, top performers. As I said, banks had quite a run this week. So Zion, Schwab, KeyCorp, Citizens Financial, Northern Trust, Bank of America, those are all a top. Morgan Stanley also there. They are all your top performers this week, Matt, in the S&P 500.
For the week, for sure.
The week, yeah.
For the day, if you look at the industry groups, the economic sectors on the S&P 500, we're looking at very defensive gains. So investors bought defensive stocks like utilities, they bought healthcare stocks, they bought the energy index, real estate, consumer staples. I mean, it doesn't get any more defensive than that lineup. On the downside, you have communication services, so Netflix, which
What?
You know,
what?
I mean, I still can't get over the drop yesterday. We expect them to add 2 million subscribers, and they add 6 million subscribers, and investors sell. Anyway, you've got communication services there. You got industrials down as well as financials.
Maybe we need to think about our expectations or perspective a
Yeah,
little
you need
bit.
to
All right.
recalibrate.
Exactly. All right, let's get to some of the individual gainers in the Friday trade. We definitely are in a Friday mode. Disney, up about 1%, up almost 2%, though, at its highs today. I think we all kind of perked up in the newsroom when there was a headline that crossed. This was coming, I believe, from CNBC. That Disney's ESPN had some preliminary talks with the NFL and NBA about partnerships and investment structures, citing unidentified people. Apparently, Disney CEO Bob Iger and also ESPN head Jimmy Pitaro have held some talks about the leagues becoming minority investors. That would be a big deal.
That would be huge.
All right, so we're keeping an eye on Disney. I want to go to chips, if you will, because Qualcomm was a top performer, number 2 in the NASDAQ 100, up about 3.3%. We saw Texas Instruments also higher, number 4 in the NASDAQ 100. Intel also a top performer. Really on the move. I didn't see any specific news, but keep in mind that you've got a couple of them reporting. Texas Instruments, Intel, NXP Semi all reporting next week. So they will definitely be on our radar. Airbnb also saw that as a standout, up about 2.5%. Morgan Stanley raising its price target to 100 from 95. Stock closing at 148 and change. It does report on August 30th. Stock's up about 75% year to date, although 7% of the float shorted. And just a real quickie, if I may, Service First Bank shares, Alabama-based bank, about $3.1 billion market cap, up 20%, soaring. As the bank said, deposits grew by 23% on an annualized basis. Stock, though, down about 16% year to date, guys.
All right, let's take a look at some of the decliners here. And we're going to start in the communication services space with Interpublic, the advertising company, cutting its full year forecast in half after a pullback from TechLine. So it's now looking for growth of 1 to 2%. That stock down 13%, also taking down Omnicom with it. American Express was the worst performer in the Dow Industrials, which, by the way, guys, looks like it did eke out a gain so far, 3 minutes in. Well, that streak is alive. Anyway, American Express second quarter revenue rose less than expected as spending growth on its credit cards slowed down to a 2-year low. And Schlumberger, I can't figure out whether it's now SLB or Schlumberger.
Schlumberger.
Okay,
Schlumberger.
Schlumberger.
I've been saying Schlumberger.
Schlumberger.
Schlumberger, really?
No, it's Schlumberger.
Okay.
We're messing with you.
You're making me question myself. It is the world's biggest oil services provider, and activity in North America will fall this quarter as the slowdown in U.S. shale puts a drag on growth in its overseas operations. And Intuitive Surgical, this is an interesting one. It fell as much as 5.2%. So it had a second quarter earnings beat, but investors are focused on a continued decline in bariatric surgery in the U.S., the stomach stapling surgery. Apparently, weight loss drugs have become an attractive alternative. So fewer people are getting the surgery because they're taking, what is it called, Ozempic?
Yeah.
Probably better than getting your stomach cut open.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Wegovy? Is it
Something
Wegovy?
like that.
Wegovy and Ozempic.
Wegovy.
Yeah, so no more stomach surgery.
I'm in the market.
Ozempic.
It's the cover story of Bloomberg Business Week, by the way, because WW betting big on these
Yeah.
weight loss drugs.
WW. It's called Weight Watchers.
Schlumberger, SLB.
But we're never
Weyerhaeuser.
we're never going to say WW because people are like WWE.
No one knows
like,
what it
are you
is.
It
talking
doesn't make
about?
any sense. There are a couple of rebrandings, EY and WW, that are simply ridiculous.
Remember when it was Apple Computer and not Apple Inc.?
But
No.
but like it's like these companies that we constantly like are formally known as Alphabet, Google, same thing.
Yeah. Well,
We're not-
Elevance.
have we not brought up Meta?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest one of them all, right?
Yeah, but let's talk about the bond market, you guys, which
Let's
has
do
never been rebranded. We're talking about the full faith and credit of the United States. You look at the 2-year yield. I'm going to call that unchanged, really unchanged across the curve. Of course, we know that the Fed is meeting next week. We know that they're probably going to hike.
There's a Fed meeting
There's
next
a
week?
Fed meeting next week. There's an ECB meeting next week. There's a
No.
BOJ meeting next week. I'm psyched. But you look at the tape today.
And 40% of the S&P 500 reporting earnings next week.
That's
Yeah,
right.
but we're talking about the bond market right now.
Okay.
So in any case, you add it all together, you did get a little bit of a deepening of the inversion of the 2s, 10s curve. We're back below 100 basis points of inversion, but really interesting conversation I had earlier today on real yield about what message that actually sends. Bank of America and PIMCO are of the mind that
really
actually
interesting?
It was really interesting, Carol. I hope you were watching.
I actually always listen to you when you do it.
Really?
I have like multitasking. Go.
Wow, you and
Anyway.
my parents.
If
but-
it's not steepening, by the way, Katie, is it always flattening or is it inverting
I think it's
more?
fair to say it's inverting deeper because the flattening we already did it. We're below zero, but maybe
No, but you talked about, right? Your guest was talking about the significance of what
Yeah.
it really says.
They see it as basically an endorsement of the Fed's policy, that the bond market is believing that the Fed is going to get inflation under control. That's the signal to take from that yield curve inversion versus recession signaling.
It only took a year for everyone to get on board.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Do we think we're really on board? Do we think that the bond market's on board?
This is why I keep thinking about like all of these revisions. I feel like in strategists and economists, and I get a little nervous when all of a sudden everybody, it's like a seesaw. Like all of a sudden everybody's running to the other side, or a yacht or something, or a boat. Like everybody's going to run to the other side, and it's wrong. Like I don't know. Is it just getting too optimistic, or is it, as you said, I think earlier, Katie, about this whole idea of a soft recession, right, or soft landing, right? That it's not so predictable, and it takes a while to work its way there.
It's a really big, complex economy. Maybe there's recessions in certain parts of the economy.
Rolling
recession.
recession, a rich session
Rich session
is another one I've
Explain.
heard recently.
What does that mean?
It's bad for some people and not bad for others, basically.
So the rich are in recession?
That's
like the
that's
rich
what
aren't really
that
in
term
recession.
means if you buy into it.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
The rich are in recession?
Usually the rich are not in recession.
That's
Okay,
right.
really important. Who's going to go see the Barbie movie?
Not this weekend, but it's
I'm holding off for a weekend.
yeah.
Don't you love
I'm the
it?
only one. I'm the only one.
The guy is going to see
You
the
have a
Barbie
daughter.
movie.
You have a daughter, so she's excited.
She's
right?
2.5. She's not coming with me. We're getting a sitter, and I'm taking my wife.
It is PG-13,
sweet.
you know.
Or actually, my wife is taking me. I
Okay.
don't want to sound sexist.
All right.
Okay, I get it.
That's a wrap. A lot going on next week. Guys, have a great weekend.
Rest up for a big week next week.
Woohoo! All right, that's going to do it. Our wrap, our cross-platform coverage, radio, TV, YouTube, and Bloomberg Originals. We call it Beyond the Bell. We will see you again on Monday.